with custodial assets, and that's what you should do, right? So about 8 years ago, one of my friends who started, the founder of Vesticor, approached me. I have 6 children, 4 of them were in college, and he said, "Hey, come on board and help me build this out." And of course, like anybody, if anybody has children and anybody has a good thing going, you don't want to just leave and jump to something else that's more of an early stage startup. So circa, 8 years ago, then 4 years ago when I did that, I said, well, he approached me again. I said, well, let me walk this out. Let me become a placement. I started a placement agency, raising capital for entities or private funds and individuals and corporations, be it private credit, private equity, private real estate, etc. And then, COVID hit. Both of my parents in the Cincinnati area had passed, and of my 6 kids, my baby was 21, and I said, well, in college, and I said, you know what? I think I can. I have more flexibility to do whatever I want from that perspective. So I approached Gary Rakin, the founder of Vesticor. We're a boutique M&A advisory firm, investment bank, and he says, come in, run this, and help me develop business. And the thesis was really simple. M&A firms, we're all capable of doing the same thing, right? But I approached this and I said, oh my gosh, I have the holy grail, because I have access to wealth advisors by 1 or 2 degrees in the whole country. I have access to a plethora of attorneys and accountants that I've gained, relationships with over the years, and I will be their go-to resource. So that's how I jumped in about 2.5 years ago. I came on board. I started refining everything that this boutique was doing, and I realized that I could provide something that in my doings and in my empirical data that very few, if any, M&A firms have access to. From a business perspective, is I have that 1 or 2 degree separation from every wealth advisor in the United States, right? I know what advisors do. I know what inspires and motivates them. I know how accounting firms and law firms work. And so I said, well, we'll build our thesis to be more advisor-centric, financial professional-centric, where we'll do something where most, if not all, M&A firms will not do. And that is build bandwidth around talking with accountants, attorneys, especially wealth advisors, and their business owner relationships, their clientele, even when those people are not ready to exit. And so in the last 2.5 years, I've been building out that thesis, creating formality around it, building bandwidth around it. So the unique alignment that I have with people like you, Stuart, as well as wealth advisors, other wealth advisors, attorneys, and accountants is, yes, I'm an M&A firm. Yes, other M&A firms are just as competent and capable of taking a business to market, formally, competitively, and looking for the right solution, business partner, et cetera. But what we've done is we've built the bandwidth to become a service model, an arrow in your quiver, if you will, to partner up with people like you and other professionals, accountants, and lawyers, and giving access to advice, second opinions, just optionality of what they can do, whether they want to do it now or in the future. And that's the key, even when they're not ready to exit, right? And so everybody wants to do it. Everybody's capable of doing it that's in M&A, but who's aligning themselves with those professionals such as yourself? Who is providing resources and time and energy? And, legally we call it pro bono. You and I could call it stewardship. Somebody could call it an investment of time, correct? Well, we've built bandwidth around that because we know what motivates our financial professionals, an end result. But we know that if we do this, our thesis is when it comes time for them to execute in some form or fashion, partially or completely, we're most likely not going to be in a bake-off because we've developed a relationship with the steward of the world that brought me the business owner or the accountant or the attorney, and we've worked with them pro bono, air quotes, by being that aligned with them even when they're not ready to exit. And so it started about 2.5 years ago that immersed me fully into the M&A space.
Well, that's fantastic. That really fits within our business model. We're, as you were alluding to back in the day, we're just trying to manage just a particular amount of assets. And our business model has grown to where we want to partner with CPAs and other experts so that we are managing all cycles of our clients' journey, right? I mean, they don't just want you to manage their money. They want you to help them manage their life. And they have you there to be the resource. And so as we're working with the CPA, and as you pointed out in past conversations that we've had, if you have a business owner who's over 50, they're being approached by dozens of people to have them unwind their business. And ultimately, that's probably their plan. So we're talking with our CPA partners about working with the business owners who are gray-haired over 50 like me that are potentially going to be selling in the next 3, 5, 10 years. There's going to be a percent. And we want to be able to help them pre, during, post, and have the resources to be able, and this is what all of our best clients want anyway, right? They expect this out of us. And you have other financial advisors or other people, other M&A lawyers, other CPAs, other people that are just sitting back saying, that's not my job. Kind of is your job. Kind of is your job as a fiduciary to mold that experience for their life cycle, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think of it this way, and this is where I built my thesis.
Welcome to Money Talk Viewpoint. I am your host, Dennis Wiliams with CashMApp Consulting, where we have with us Charles Dents with Xelantt Profit Strategies. He is all about enabling mid-sized businesses who have moved successfully from that startup phase and are looking to move to the next level, but they've found that they've kind of plateaued in their revenues. Charles, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Dennis. I really appreciate being on the show and looking forward to our conversation. And just so that people know, clients ask me to transform their business to increase revenue. And increasing revenue shows up in several ways, whether they're looking for strategic investors or they're just looking to grow their business. And the way that I do that is through increasing knowledge. And then the two things that I'll also include that most do not, and that's the ability to implement and then have sustainable execution. Then the second thing is accelerating process, the strategic processes using AI tools, and as well as then establishing efficient operations, then finally scaling their companies to surpass their current growth limitations.
So kind of restate that again, and maybe just like 3 bullet points, just so we can be focused on what you're telling.
Yeah. So growth happens in really 3 different ways. That is acceleration of strategies and implementing those strategies using AI tools. Number 2 would be to establish efficient operations. And number 3 is ultimately scaling to grow past limitations.
Okay, that's great. And so each of those is a mouthful to be able to effectively achieve.
Yeah,
and recognizing being a small business owner, I'm already maxed out. So before I'm going to spend a lot of time, I guess my first question would be, Charles, how did you get to this and what makes you an expert?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, I started back in 2007, around 2007, 2008, and helping a couple of small startups.
Welcome to Money Talk Viewpoint. I'm Shauntel Leeson. We're a talk show for financial professionals that specialize in working with business owners, family-owned businesses, and family office. And so I have a myriad of guest speakers that come on and talk about different aspects of the industry. Today, I have a CPA, and it's Marie Torossian. So she's going to tell us about what she does as a CPA. And let me start with, Marie, thank you for being on our show today.
Thank you, Shauntel. I'm excited to be here.
And we're glad to have you. I'd like to know a little bit about what you do, because there are different aspects of being an accountant and being a CPA.
Yes.
And how you got started in that industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just like every other accountant or CPA, I went to college. I went to Florida International University, got my bachelor's and master's in accounting, and then I set for the CPA exam, which has 4 parts. But it's something that most people don't know, and most business owners don't know, is that as a CPA, You have different avenues, just like a doctor would eventually choose an area of expertise. As a CPA, you might be focused on financial audits, which is the assurance services. You could be in forensics, which requires a little bit more, specified certification. There's also tax, which is most what people think is every CPA is doing taxes, which is not actually true. And of course, there's also CPAs that may have transitioned from public accounting to private accounting, and they usually become controllers and CFOs of, major companies.
Well, let me ask you, how do you stay competitive in your industry, and what do you do that differentiates what you do from your competitors?
That's a great question, Shauntel.
My name is Stuart Kruse. I'll be your host today. I'm the president and founder of Kruse Asset Management. We're a boutique asset management firm and virtual family office. Our guest on today, Kruse Shumate. He is a estate planning attorney, and he has other estate planning attorneys. He is trying to go down the path of providing a variety of additional services to his clients instead of just being one and done, right? Because you're going to tend to get better solutions when you're working together. So let me introduce my guest, Kruse Shumate. So very happy to have Kruse on the show today. So Kruse, let me, first of all, welcome to the show.
Stuart, thanks for having me.
So first off, I am super curious how you went from being a prosecuting attorney to an estate planning lawyer. Like, what was that transition like?
Yeah, so I kind of in a former life, I was a deputy DA with Riverside County, and so that was basically being a prosecutor, put people in prison for a living. And so the story there is that when I went to law school, I was getting a what they called a certificate, which is like a major in tax in law school. And I'd always, kind of been, interested in public speaking and speech and debate, acting, things like that. And I'd always thought about going and being a DA. And so when I graduated from law school, there was an opportunity, an opening for me to be a DA. And so I decided to go ahead and take that opportunity and step into it. So backing up a little bit, my mother-in-law is Kathleen Albrektson, and so she is and was at the time an estate planning and probate attorney. And we had always talked about, potentially going into practice together to kind of have a family type office. And but when the opportunity came for me to become a DA, I just decided to go ahead and so was very grateful for my time as being a DA. I prosecuted 21 jury trials